Hello. It is so good to see you guys. I am Ashley, and we are going to get into some more music in just a second. We are recording, like the robot says. And yeah, grab your candles, grab your appropriately temperature drink for wherever you are in the world. I have hot chocolate, even though it is hot and humid here. I like hot chocolate a lot. And yeah, the words to the songs will be in the chat, and sing along, say hello, and Mark David's going to get us started with some more music.
Thanks, Ashley. Hi, everyone. I'm Mark David. I'm the music director for Sanctuary Boston, and it is good to be with y'all. This evening, we're going to start out with a little tune by the Waylon Jennings, Beautiful Dawn, and I hope you'll sing it along with me. Here we go. Take me to the breaking of a beautiful dawn. Take me to the place where we came from. Take me to the end so I can see the start. There's only one way to mend a broken heart. Take me to the place where I don't feel so small. Take me where I don't need to stand so tall. Take me to the edge so I can fall apart. There's only one way to mend a broken heart. Love isn't up for sale. Take me where our hearts are not so frail. Take me where the fire still owns its spark. There's only one way to mend a broken heart. To see when I close my eyes. Teach me to forgive and to apologize. Show me how to love in the darkest dark. There's only one way to mend a broken heart. Take me where the angels are close on hand. Take me where the ocean meets the sky and the land. Show me to the wisdom of the evening star. There's only one way to mend a broken heart. Take me to the place where I feel no shame. Take me where the courage doesn't need a name. Learning how to cry is the hardest part. There's only one way to mend a broken heart. Small. Take me where I don't need to stand so tall. Take me to the edge so I can fall apart. There's only one way to mend a broken heart. Take me to the breaking of a beautiful dawn. Take me to the place where we came from. Take me to the end so I can see the start. There's only one way to mend a broken heart. Thanks, everyone.
I love that song so much. All right. I think we're getting into the theme of the service, which is, well, lots of things about gentleness and self-kindness and grace. And I love this song as a reminder of that. It's by Allie Halpert. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Sing it together. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Holy breath and holy name, will you ease this pain? Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. Loosen, loosen, baby. You don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go.
This is the time in our evening when we light our chalice. If you have a candle or chalice in your space, we invite you to light it now. If you don't, take a moment to settle in, maybe take some deep breaths as you listen to our chalice lighting words. Those words tonight come from Yes by Brian Doyle. I was on a gleaming elevator in a vast hotel in a huge city the other day when a man got on with his daughter about age 4. I asked her what floor they wanted, and she said 7 million. I reached up as high as I could and pressed an imaginary button, and she laughed. And some little door opened in all 3 of us, a wordless yes. And we started to talk about the elevator's voice, which sounded like a lady from Ireland or Scotland, and how the buttons were twice as big as any giant's fingers, and how older gents like me remembered buildings without 13th floors. Isn't that funny? That an ancient superstition would still be reflected in modern buildings. By now, the girl was dancing, and her dad and I were grinning at her ebullience. But then the lady spoke their floor, and the door opened. The girl leapt away, but the dad hesitated a second and said quietly, "Hey, thanks." And I knew just what he meant. Something like, "Thanks for being 4 years old for a minute." We have those moments when we are all the same age, from the same country, with the same language on our teeth. And it never lasts too long, but it always feels weirdly familiar, doesn't it? Like we are home again for a moment with family we hardly get to see.
I love that reading. Thank you, Lee, for choosing it. I hadn't heard it before, and it's just so delightful. Thank you, Kit, for reading it too. That was so well read. And welcome everyone to Sanctuary Boston, a community of vibrant worship and real connection, grounded in Unitarian Universalism and open to seekers of all kinds. My name is Ashley Mulcair, and I am the Summer Worship Coordinator. Sanctuary community member Lee Kinvey will be offering the reflection tonight. Lee is a music therapist and recently finished their MDiv degree at the Unitarian Universalist Seminary, Star King School for the Ministry. Congratulations, Lee, that is a major achievement. They will be reflecting on the movement of grace in moments that change and shape us. We are recording, so if you'd rather not have your face on YouTube later, you can turn off your camera. However, if you're up for it, we would love to see your sweet faces so we can really feel your presence and that we're together. Just wanted to call out that I love being a co-host on the Zoom because you can see everyone as they enter the waiting room and are admitted, and it feels like everyone's coming into the service. So if you've never done a reading or anything like that, you should do a reading sometime so that you get to experience the coming in the door feeling. Now Milo will lead us in our words of welcome.
Sure. So it's our practice to welcome each other into this space by reading these words of welcome. So I invite you to join me in reading whichever of them resonate for you. Whether you go to church on Sunday morning or light candles on Friday nights, whether you've been hurt by religion, saved by it, or some of both, whether you're brand new to spiritual community or a seasoned seeker, whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are in your journey, we welcome you. Now let's continue our practice of welcoming by saying hello and where you're joining from in the chat.
I was just enjoying the music so much that I forgot it's my turn again. It is so good to be with you guys tonight. Let's take one deep breath and just arrive here and remember that we are creating sacredness in our being together and that your being here is a gift to each of us.
Our next song is a classic and one of my favorites, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Hope you'll sing it along with me. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise, while the hope of life's perfection fill our hearts with joy and love. Teach us ever to be faithful, may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the lambkin dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways, lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above. With thine aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
Oh, thank you, Mark David. Thank you, thank you. I have such a clear memory from the summer of 1971. I was 5.5 years old, and it was the first night of Lutheran sleepaway camp, and I was at my very first campfire. I was entranced by the fire. Remember, there was a lot of chatter going on that I didn't understand, and then one of the counselors started singing, and everything changed. The air shifted and the world reshaped itself. Here's what she was singing. It only takes a spark to get a fire going, and soon all those around can warm up in its glowing. It's how it is with God's love. Once you've experienced it, you spread this love to everyone. You want to pass it on. I was smitten with the moment. And the lyrics of that song, which have never left me, offered my first and I think still most important theological foundation, which is that it's about experiences. It's about beliefs, not words. It's not about beliefs or about words or about thinking or understanding. It's about experiencing. And what I experienced in and through that specific song, what emerged in that moment, changed everything. The moments can change everything. And that turns out to be now a big part of what I do professionally. So for the last 17 years, I've worked as a music therapist for people who are receiving hospice services and their loved ones. So I walk into a lot of rooms, a lot of spaces that we decide to change with music, that I decide sometimes to change with music. Music therapists work within the music and the genres that the patient chooses. And since dying is an equal opportunity situation, I've worked with folks from all walks of life. And it's been fascinating on so many levels. Also, just to notice what the most beloved songs are. Some of them pop out across ages, social classes, across races, religions, no religion at all, across all musical preferences. And I think probably the most requested song over all of these years is a 250-year-old song, Amazing Grace. Amazing Grace is a song with a long, fascinating, complex story behind it. Here's just a tiny bit of it. John Newton, who wrote it, was born in England 300 years ago. His mother was deeply religious, and she was the center of his world. Dad wasn't around that much. But Mom got tuberculosis and died when John was 7. His father shipped him off to live elsewhere. So when John Newton was 19, he fell hopelessly in love, as we do, and maybe he was daydreaming a little on the way over to her house one evening, but he got kidnapped and forced to serve in the British Navy. This is called by a press gang. Apparently that's how they got people to serve at that time. So John Newton tried to escape and got caught. And as a punishment for trying to escape, the captain stripped and flogged him in public. So they shame and humiliate a 19-year-old in public after abducting him on the way to see his girlfriend. I mean, recipe for disaster, yes? Nelson Mandela said, "There is no one more dangerous than someone who's been humiliated." So John Newton became kind of a hell on wheels for a while. He gave the Navy such a hard time that they made a deal with another ship that was trafficking in abducted, enslaved humans in this Middle Passage. And they decided to trade this troublemaker, John Newton, for another sailor. So there's Newton working on this deck of the ship. It's brand new to him, and they sail right into a storm in the middle of the Atlantic. And he's trying to figure out how to just not slide overboard. And the captain of the ship tells him, steer. So he physically strapped himself to the helm, absolutely certain he was going to die. The ship is taking on water. And he did what most of us do when we are terrified, which is we make promises and bargains, even with gods we don't necessarily believe in. And he was not a believer at that time. He described himself as a hellion and all sorts of other things. But John Newton made a promise that night that if he lived, he would become a faithful Christian like his mother had been. He survived and he kept his promise. Now, one of the things to know is that Christianity and slavery were not seen as contradictory at that time. It wasn't until 40 years later that John Newton actually became an abolitionist, speaking out against abducting and enslaving people. He became a minister, and he wrote Amazing Grace for a sermon that he did on that experience of terror when he was strapped to the helm of the ship. And he was talking about how the grace of his promise, of the promise he made in that terror, turned his life around. So the lyrics of this song come directly from his personal experience. Amazing Grace is a song without guile. He meant to call himself a wretch. He knew what dangers and toils and snares were, as we all do in our own context. Later in his life, Newton wrote a lot all the way through his life. We have a huge record of him. But he wrote in an essay, "I hope it will always be a subject of humiliating reflection to me, that I was once an active instrument in a business at which my heart now shudders." Even the gentlest of lives have great pain and sorrow and sometimes regret. And I think it's important to take responsibilities for the ways we've messed up, for when we've caused harm. That taking responsibility, the owning of our past mistakes, the feeling, the pain of them. We may not have meant it. We may not have done it intentionally, but it still happened. But that taking responsibility is the crack that lets the light in. That's the crack that lets the grace in. There are lots of meanings of the word grace, but just in the very basic sense, grace is an experience of human kindness and goodness that we both receive and give. It flows through us, in us, out. Grace doesn't have any connection with status or with performance or worth. There's no exchange or obligation. You don't earn it. You don't deserve it. It just comes. It's always way more than us. And I think maybe an underlying sense, even if it's not fully conscious of how much and how often each of us have needed that grace, is one of the many reasons my hospice patients and their loved ones so often request Amazing Grace, and why it's one of the most recognized songs in English, and why when activist Fannie Lou Hamer and singer Judy Collins brought it out of obscurity in the 1960s and early 70s, it very quickly became a wildly popular secular hymn. Amazing Grace speaks to us in times of intense suffering. And it doesn't require actually a specific religious belief or cultural context. It asks us to believe in grace itself. And for me, grace is one of the things that makes it possible to keep saying yes to life, even when it's so damn hard to be human. And it is so hard to be human. But I want to co-create with you all and with all of us a world of grace in which we want more for each other than we've ever managed to want for ourselves. I want to give and give and give grace and love recklessly and irrationally because I know that they are inexhaustible resources, that the well will never run dry. It can't, because the source is from within, and it's always way more than me. It's way more than us. You may remember this moment. In June 2015, President Barack Obama gave the eulogy for Clementa Pinckney, who was a South Carolina state senator and minister at Mother Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston. So Reverend Pinckney and 8 other people had been killed in a tragic, racially motivated mass shooting. During his eulogy, President Obama started talking about grace. And he said, if we can find that grace, anything is possible. If we can tap that grace, everything can change. Amazing grace. And then President Obama paused. It was a big, deep, long pause. And then he sang, right? He sang Amazing Grace. And everything changed. The air changed. The world somehow reshaped itself. To me, it was one of the most poignant and powerful moments of his or any American presidency. The unforgettable power of that moment did not come because Obama played it safe and relied on his skills as an orator. It came from a leader who chose his open, vulnerable, unaccompanied singing voice. A leader who evoked his humility, his compassion, and with them brought comfort to people who are in deep grief. I think he changed the air in all of our rooms that night with a 250-year-old hymn. I keep the song Amazing Grace and a few others close to heart and mind all the time. They remind me to gentle, to open. They ask me to walk toward them and lead with compassion. They offer me a reminder to bring my vulnerable, open heart my grace and love wherever I can manage it, even just for a moment. And turning to those songs helps me refocus my perspective when I get clamped down on political issues or whatever it is. I got to remember that everyone is hurting. Anyone I meet or see or hear could be having a way harder day than I am. And if I'm there in person, maybe just the warmth of the smile, maybe the hello, maybe just a wee bit of grace will be the hand that reaches down and pulls that person out of a deep, scary well today. You all have that capacity. That is grace. It's just like the grace of so many hands that have hauled my butt out of so many deep, scary wells. There's a singer-songwriter, a British-American singer-songwriter named Zoe Mulford, who wrote this great song about that Obama moment. She said she loves the feeling of experiencing the humanity of historical events through songs. And she wanted to pass that moment on because it was so important to her. So this is her song. It's called The President Sang Amazing Grace. A young man came to a house of prayer. They did not ask what brought him there. He was not friend, he was not kin. But they opened the door and let him in. And for an hour the stranger stayed. He sat with them and seemed to pray. But then the young man drew a gun, and he killed 9 people, old and young. In Charleston in the month of June, the mourners gathered in a room. The president came to speak some words. The cameras rolled and the nation heard. But no words could say what must be said for all the living and the dead. So on that day and in that place, the president sang Amazing Grace. The president sang Amazing Grace. We argued where to lay the blame, on one man's hate or our nation's shame, some sickness of the mind or soul, or how the wounds might be made whole. But no words could say what must be said for all the living and the dead. So on that day and in that place, the president sang Amazing Grace. My president sang Amazing Grace.
Amen. I want to give in to my urge to just pause for a moment. Maybe take a deep, deep breath. Thank you, Lee, for bringing us to this place. I'm Phoebe. My pronouns are she and her, and I am here representing the offering team of folks who have the privilege of trying to kind of argue on WhatsApp every week or every other week. It feels like every week to decide what incredible organization Sanctuary should share our offering collection with. This week, we are sharing our offering with the Movement Voter Fund, which feels particularly relevant after what we've just heard about a president who, oh, it's a little hard to hear, Phoebe, sorry. I'm a quiet speaker. I'm working on that. So this week we are sharing our offering with the Movement Voter Fund. They are a nonprofit organization that works on voter turnout. They work to support and empower and prepare and train and build capacity with grassroots organizers who are doing this most important work on the ground. Their theory of change is that we don't need some top-down national funder to come and get out the vote. It's that the people who are already on the ground in the communities doing the work, people who know each other, are the ones who are going to turn out voter registration and get people involved in our democracy and our election processes. Movement Voter Fund is, they have kind of a four-part strategy that I want to share with you really briefly. They target geographical areas in the country with the greatest need for investment in civic operations and elections. They say, where's voter turnout low? Then they invest in the best local voter organizing groups, focusing on youth, on immigrant communities, on BIPOC and LGBTQ communities, folks who are doing this important work. Then they help organize voters to boost civic participation, education, and policy work to advance justice. Their final point is they win policies that advance democracy, equity, and sustainability in this country. It's a nonpartisan organization. All the money that we donate they will pass through directly to organizations in local communities. If you would like to donate online, you can find the link in the chat. To donate through our Breeze, you can donate through Venmo or on PayPal. You can find us directly on Venmo at Sanctuary Boston, all one word. Please put offering in the notes. I think that's all from me. Take it away, music.
sing There's a Love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
We arrive together, bringing all the joys and sorrows of our complex lives with us this evening. Some of us arrive here wrestling difficult things, feeling the pain of a broken world around us and within us. Some of us arrive full of blessings, brimming with gratitude. We invite you to write any sorrows that you're carrying into the chat box now, as sorrows shared are burdens lightened.
Let's sing together, There is a Love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love.
And now we invite you to share any joys in your life in the chat box now, as those joys shared are joys magnified.
sing one more time. There is a love. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this
And now I invite you to find your body in a position of comfort, if possible, and to open your heart to a moment of prayer. Spirit of life, we show up this day with what is available to us, with the wisdom, compassion, and intention held in community, this community and the communities we touch. We gather amidst the struggles we face, not alone, but together. We gather amidst the accomplishments we share with and for another. Joined by the thread of life, we are creatures on a shared journey, creatures that yearn for a future often sought and not yet realized. In the seeking, we find ourselves with joys. We find ourselves joyful for visits, newness, a job interview with gratitude. And in the seeking, we find ourselves with sorrows, sorrows that are shaped like heaviness, the passing of beloveds, with violence. We know that our shared lives are filled with complexity and that feelings of hope are held in tension with those of despair. We become that much more alive when we acknowledge these parts of us, when we let the grace in. Spirit of life, provide for us a reminder that the change we experience is a living process that connects us to one another. We are joined by the thread of life, of grace, as we encounter new truths, new realities, new pathways, and always this thread of life, this thread both strong and fragile, hums to the anthem of love at our center. Blessed be, may it be so, and amen.
Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through. With thanksgiving, we are a living sanctuary anew.
Amen. Keep your hearts open, beloveds, for a moment when you might be able to shift the air in a room with a little vulnerability, honesty, a little song, a little grace. And wherever you find yourself, may you offer grace generously, and may grace in turn always lead you back home. And of course, we couldn't not do it. Mark David is going to sing Amazing Grace for us to end. I do just want to say a couple words about language before he does. Some folks change the word wretch to soul, but I have asked Mark David to sing the original. John Newton meant wretch. And for me, it's really about the willingness to look at and take responsibilities for the ways we fall short of what we aim for, the ways we cause harm without intention, the ways we just really F up sometimes. The other language piece is that, especially as the parent of a blind kid, I do object to the use of blind to mean ignorant or unwilling to perceive something or unreasonable. And it's also true that Amazing Grace has been sung that way for 250 years. So in this case, what we're doing is just saying out loud that the way Newton uses the word blind in this song, we recognize today as ableist language, and we discourage that. I mean, blind is a perfectly good word. It refers to people who can't see or who have very diminished eyesight. All right. So thank you, Mark David, for singing this and for organizing all the music, and to everybody else for your help with this.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Yes, when Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see.
Thank you, Mark David. I know I'm going to be thinking about this worship service for a while. Just taking a minute to soak in the gift that this has been, to be together, to hear this music, to hear these messages. And thank you, everyone. Go and be blessed as you are each a blessing. And we'll end with a little bit more music from Mark David.